All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I will be your host for today. We couldn't be more excited to be hosting events during Secret Path Week in partnership with the Gord Downey and Chanie Wenjack Fund. The Downey Wenjack Fund is part of musician Gord Downey's legacy and embodies his commitment and that of both the Downey and Wenjack families to call Canadians to action in solidarity with Indigenous peoples of this land. The goal is to continue the conversation that began with Chanie Wenjack's residential school story and to support the reconciliation process through awareness, education, and action. So over the last 2 days and continuing on Monday and Tuesday, we have classrooms across Canada joining us to help us celebrate Indigenous scientists, artists, and leaders from all across the country and work towards meaningful reconciliation. So we're super excited to be having our event today with Adrian Sutherland. He comes from the isolated Cree community of Attawapiskat. He is a singer-songwriter and the frontman of the roots rock band Adrian Sutherland and Midnight Shine, making contemporary music that gives a glimpse into life in Canada's North while reflecting on themes like family, home, love, and loss. So Adrian is a knowledge and language keeper of the Mushkegowuk Cree people of James Bay. He teaches traditional ways of the land, participates in harvest, leads ceremonies, and is a genuine example of someone who lives authentically. So he cares deeply about First Nation issues and takes the responsibility of a role model seriously. So he's very passionate about ensuring young people have access to the arts, education, sports, and culture. So Adrian, it's so awesome to have you joining us live today. We've got classrooms joining us on YouTube as well as live on camera with us from across Canada, and we're excited to get to know you a little better today.
Oh, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be here and joining everyone this afternoon. Yeah, as Joe mentioned, I come from a small community in the far north here in Canada, in northern Ontario, called Attawapiskat, and it's so small that there's not even any roads, and you have to actually fly in. So very different than probably than where most of you are living right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adrian, just for some of the classrooms who might not know the community well, as you mentioned, it's a fly-in community. It's very remote, and that brings some difficulties with it, doesn't it? Things, like clean water, things that we take for granted are a little more difficult in a community like that.
Yeah, as some of you may or may not know, we've had issues with our water ever since I was a little kid, and these problems have existed for quite some time and haven't, been fixed, and for whatever reasons. So growing up that way, I think for me, for the longest time, felt like it was just a normal thing because I had not been really to the outside world. Growing up in Attawapiskat, I just thought it was a normal thing, in Canada, to not have running water and to not have, clean access to clean water.
Yeah. So, coming from a remote community like that, can you share a little bit of your story? Maybe when music first came into your life.
Absolutely. Music has always been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. My first memories were of my mother, who was very musical. She played the organ, also played guitar, and that's when I first was introduced to music. And there were a lot of records lying around in those days that I was able to listen to. And of course, a lot of my relatives on my mother's side played as well. So there was always music going on in the local community hall. So it was introduced early on to me, and naturally I fell into it at a young age and started noodling around with the guitar, and of course didn't really know what it was doing other than it was just strumming the guitar and trying to sing songs that I knew at the time. So yeah, it's that was my very first exposure to music, was through my mother.
Yeah. Awesome. And how did Midnight Shine come to be? What's the story behind the formation?
Yeah, Midnight Shine was formed back in 2011. At the time, I was still performing as a solo artist in the region, and there was an opportunity for me to open for Trooper, which is a great Canadian band, been around for quite a few years now, and have some real good music that they had put out. And of course, I was familiar with them, and I said, absolutely, I really would love to open for them. And so the guys that were organizing the event said, sure, the gig is yours, but you need to go find a band. And so so I set out a couple of weeks before that show to find other players that were interested in doing this with me. And it didn't take too long to find the other guys from the area. They were guys that I knew through different venues that we played in over the years and that we kind of met at. And none of us had really played together though before that. So we all sort of came together really quickly, and we spent a day or two, I can't remember exactly, rehearsing in Timmins before the show. And we did like a half-hour set of my original tunes and a couple of cover songs, which I was pretty shocked because I couldn't find anybody that really wanted to play my songs for the longest time. But these guys decided that my original songs were good enough that they would like to play them and learn them, and rather than go the cover route. So that's what we did, and ever since then we've been going fairly strong.
Yeah, absolutely. It's taken you all across Canada, all kinds of shows, several albums. How many albums has it been?
We've done 3 albums together as a group, and I'm working on some solo stuff now outside the band in the coming year. So, and there are plans to put out a 4th album with the band in the near future. So yeah, we're doing it. We're continuing to make music and share music with as many people as we can.
Awesome. Well, Adrian, I have a clip queued up because I know a new song just dropped yesterday onto YouTube. So if you're ready, I think maybe we should share it with the classrooms joining us.
Sure. Let's do that.
All right, classrooms, thumbs up. Do you guys want some music? Oh yeah, good. All right. So just bear with me for a moment. I'm going to share my screen. And Adrian, if for some reason it doesn't share, just let me know. But I'm just going to share my whole desktop. I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do. So that should have started. And let me just track down the YouTube. There it is. All right. So I'm going to go full screen. Just let me know if for some reason it's not playing, but it should be now.
We're ready. Ready, girl. I get tired sometimes. I can't take no more. You still have my heart in you. You still want more. There's no getting round. There's no hiding friends. Once they cut your soul, they'll come back and do it again. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician, break me out a piece someday. Whoa. Whoa. You tried to lay the blame. You're like a do no action fool. You try to garner fame for your next election duel. We need to listen, we need to change. We're sick and tired of the same old game. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician Man, won't you bring me up a piece someday? Whoa. Lying to my face, lying to yourself, lying to the people who said that you would help. Mr. Politician Man, what about the ones you forgot? Politician man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician man, won't you break me off a piece someday? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician man, what you done for me lately? Whoa. Hey, Mr. Politician man, won't you break me off a piece someday? Whoa. Politician man, politician man, politician man, politician man, politician man.
All right. Well, that was awesome, Adrian. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. I hope the classrooms, I hope that played okay. Things can be sometimes tricky via the screen share, but I will share the link as well. And in fact, I see a lot of clapping and cheering. So I think that it played okay. Let me turn the mics on just to check.
Ready?
Perfect. I'll share that link as well with the classroom so you guys can play in your classrooms. You can rock out a little bit more after the hangout if you want to. So Adrian, maybe just a question about your songwriting process. So when you do a song like that, do you kind of just sit down and just kind of put it to paper, or is it something that kind of comes to you over time?
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes I get ideas and then melodies, and then I usually pick up a guitar and put my lyrics to paper. And yeah, there's like a lot of different ways I approach it. Sometimes I'll have lyrics only, and then I'll try and put chords to it. But generally, an idea comes, and then I try to develop that idea with my guitar or piano. There's been other approaches too that I've taken where I just sit down and I start strumming chords and different chords, you know, whether they're major, minor, sharps, flats, and then I just kind of gets me into a certain mood, and I just start singing whatever the words come out, just whatever comes to mind. Anything could be, you know, I could have a box of Fruit Loops in front of me, and I start reading the Fruit Loops out and singing them, and then whatever else is on the box, just to kind of get melodies to come out.
All right, very cool. The Fruit Loop method. I haven't heard that one, but it sounds like a good one. All right. So Adrian, before we meet our classrooms, I want to ask you about one more thing. So, you know, I introduced you. I talked a little bit about how you still take part in traditional ways of the land and harvest and ceremonies. And so you shared with me some pictures of a recent moose hunt. Do you want me to take a moment and share those? You can tell us a little bit about what traditional moose hunt is like.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's show those pictures, and then we can talk a bit about the traditional moose hunt.
Perfect. So I'm going to pin the screen to my screen. So that should come on now. And now I'm going to share my screen and bring up those images. So they should be loading now. And then let me just go full screen. And then let me see, where's my full screen? There it is. So yeah, Adrian, if you want to talk a little bit about the pictures, I'll pass through each one as you're ready.
Okay, so in this one, obviously, I'm very happy. We just got home the night before, and all the work is now beginning to butcher up all the meat and then store them in our freezers. Some we're grinding, and then some we're actually smoking and making jerky with. jerky out of the meat. So that's what you see in the back. All that meat behind me has got to be cut up, and I'm in my little smokehouse teepee.
All right, let's jump to the, oops, let me jump to the next one.
This is the day before, actually. We were on our way home. We traveled 5 days along the Attawapiskat River. Attawapiskat River is actually north of the Attawapiskat River on the coast. So we traveled up this river because it's known, well, most of the rivers are known for good moose hunting. But this one in particular, I really, really like. So we went up with one other hunting party, my two sons. You see Junior in front here, the youngest boy, who doesn't like cameras. So we were trying to get a picture, but he just said, no, I don't want to be in the photo. And he's building, which looks like a little sandcastle on the bank. And you could see me carrying one of the quarters, the hind quarters, there in the gray pants. That's me packing out meat from the bush and loading up into our freighter canoe. And that's my oldest boy there, who's standing by the canoe with his rifle, just sort of helping packing gear up and unloading the rifle and getting ready to go home. There's me again packing more meat out, and my brother beside me. That's now on the sea, James Bay. Behind me, you see a little island, which is known as Twin Islands. So we had been traveling since 7 a.m. that day, and we're about 5 p.m. now. So it was a very long day. We were tired, cold, hungry, and we had a nice little fire on that island in the background, actually, to dry up, warm up, and make some nice hot chocolate and tea, and get nice and toasty again. And then away we went. Once the tide started coming in, we caught the south tide home, and we're home just in time for supper.
All right, awesome pictures. I'm going to come back from the screen share now and take it off of my screen. So I should be back now. So Adrian, when you're out doing a hunt like that, is that specifically for your family, or does some of that meat go to the wider community?
Well, it's Cree. It's always been customary for the Crees to share their kill. So anything they get, usually they try to give almost half away. And the belief is that the more meat you give, the more will come back to you when you need it. And also the more the animals will be, like the more the land will become, like the more bountiful the land will be. So that's the belief the Crees have. And it's just an old value as well. And there are families that sometimes don't get moose, and they spend a lot of resources and a lot of time getting out. And when we hear that so-and-so didn't get a moose, we'll go over and offer up our kill to that family, so to make sure that they have enough meat for the winter as well. And of course, there are other families like elders that can't hunt anymore. A lot of us will go out and supply them, make sure they have meat. And it was October Thanksgiving weekend, so we gave quite a bit of our meat away to a lot of families, and just kept enough for our own needs.
All right, awesome. I love that, paying it forward. And then you're right, it absolutely helps in the future, when there's a time that maybe the hunt wasn't so successful. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should meet some of our classrooms. Adrian, what do you think?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. So let me start turning on some microphones. Let's start off. Let's go to Thornhill, Ontario. Mrs. Ford's grade 6s are hanging out with us. Let me turn their mic on. How are we doing, Thornhill?
Hi.
All right. Who's got a question for us?
How do you feel about people from other cultures singing and performing songs? Louder. No. He muted himself.
I heard the question. You asked me, how do I feel about other people from other cultures singing my songs?
Yes.
I'm okay with it, really. I'm comfortable with it. I personally don't really think there's anything wrong, with anyone singing my songs. I grew up singing powwow as well, and I grew up singing ceremony. And in some of the ceremonies that I participated in over the years, I've seen non-native people in there actually that know the songs and sing them very well as what in the ceremonies. So, but they were adopted into the ceremony by other families, like Ojibwe families or Cree families. So it's okay as long as proper protocols are followed, and you know, as long as we're following proper protocol, I think everything, you know, is okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with it.
All right. Great question to get us started. Thanks to our class in Thornhill. We'll probably swing back your way shortly, but let's go now to Mrs. Vick's class. Looks like a mixture of middle schoolers hanging out in Fitzroy Harbor in Ontario. Let's get that microphone turned on. How are we doing, Fitzroy Harbor?
Hi.
Oh, I saw someone. Can you try again? If you asked the question, we missed it.
How can we help your people?
I got it. Got the question. How can you help my people? I think what we're doing today helps. We're learning about each other, and we want to understand more about each other. And I think that's important. I think to talk to one another and to make sure that no matter where you come from and what you look like, that we try to respect each other and also create, you know, safe spaces to have those conversations. And personally, me, where I am in my life right now, I have kids, you know, that are your age, and I also have grandchildren. So I like to speak out against something that I think is wrong. And because I'm an artist and I have a platform to speak out, I use that platform quite a bit now to try to shed light on things like, you know, poor living conditions in the communities up north. So I think speaking out, you know, and perhaps maybe as you get a little older, social media is also a very could be used in a very good way by creating awareness, and you can also have access to your local politicians through the social media platforms as well. I think I've always said just doing something is lots. You know, it may be something just as little as what we're doing right now, just talking about things. You know, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it does make a difference.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We've been talking about that a lot over the last 2 days is, you know, as we move towards reconciliation, a big piece of it is awareness about sharing stories and small acts, because those small acts add up, you know, in different classrooms, and that adds up across Canada. So I think that's an awesome, awesome point, is that any little thing, any telling somebody something you learned today can make a big difference. Okay, Mrs. Spears' class in Vernon, British Columbia, grade 5/6s. Let's see if I can get your microphone on. There we go. How are we doing, Vernon?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, nice and loud, Maya.
We are on the unceded land of the Okanagan Sillic.
Oops.
Midnight Shine.
Oh, sorry, he didn't hear it because it accidentally muted. Can you ask one more time?
Yep. We are on the unceded land of the Okanagan Sillic.
Silix, yeah.
And my question is, how did you get the name Midnight Shine?
Good question. You know, when we first started the band, of course, we had to come up with a cool band name. And we all had our picks, our favorite picks. And I think I had about 6 different names that I really liked, but nobody else wanted to use. So I was like totally bummed out. And the name Midnight Shine came from our guitar player Zach, actually, and everyone seemed to be gravitating towards Midnight Shine. So that's where that came from. The name. Then we started thinking about, well, what does the name mean? Because we started getting asked a lot of questions about it, and so when we started to put thought to it, we really like that the shine part of Midnight Shine is to shine positive light on our communities and places where we come from, because a lot of times they're in mainstream media, they're shown as being very troubled and dark. Yes, we do have issues, but there's also a lot of wonderful things happening up there. So we try to shine light on both the not so good stuff and also the really good stuff that's happening up in our communities.
All right. Awesome. Awesome question. And I think that's so important because, you know, in today's society with media and social media, sometimes what rises to the top is the negative things. And it's really nice to put a spotlight on some of the good things that are happening places around the world too, because there are a lot of good stories. Okay. Mrs. Kaufman's group, they are in Howick, Ontario. Let me get their microphone turned on. Where is it? There it is. How we doing, Howick?
Hello.
Okay, Nora, go ahead. Be really loud. Go right up to the front. Marcus.
What instruments can you play?
Oh, good question.
Thanks, Nora.
I play the guitar. That's my favorite instrument. I played that for most of my career, and most of when I first started playing, that was what I picked up. I also play keys. I started playing keys a couple of years ago, and took some lessons and started to really learn how to play the keys, because a lot of the songs that are in my records and do have keys in them. So I play keys, and I play drums in high school. I took percussion in high school. So at one time I was really into drums, and then I could still play drums, but I'm not a great drummer. But one show that we did, our drummer never showed up to, and actually it was 3 shows. And then I had to play the last show behind the kit. It was funny. So I got through it without any major problems. So it was pretty cool to do that. And I also play the harmonica, and I can play bass guitar as well. So yeah, that's pretty much what I play. Can't play the fiddle. I tried.
All right. Well, it sounds like you could pretty much be a one-man band if you had to be. It's a lot of instruments that you've got some proficiency in. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see, Mr. Matthews class, London, Ontario. Let's get your microphone turned on. There we go. Okay. How we doing, London?
Yay.
Okay, so just to help us understand exactly, how does the lack of water in your community affect you in everyday life? Like taking a shower, just getting a glass of water, all the average stuff. How exactly does that affect you?
Well, I know personally. We'll kind of use the water. Collecting water, drinking water, is like a daily chore. So picture, like for my own needs, I need probably 4 or 5 gallon jugs for my home, and I collect them daily. Either it's me or my son that does the chore. So you're doing this every day. It's an everyday thing, like, and the upside of that is that you probably stay in good shape because you're carrying these things around all the time, and it's good exercise. But it does frustrate you sometimes, because you know that other places in Canada have clean water coming right out of their faucet. It's just at a turn of a tap. But yet I have to get up, you know, and load up the truck or the Honda, or sometimes walk over to the dispensary and that I share with the whole community and fill up my jugs and then get them back home. And if you miss the hours, because those dispensaries are only open certain hours. If you sometimes miss, you know, the open hours, you won't have drinking water until the next day. And for some of us that happens because you know sometimes you're just busy or you just forget to check if you have any water left for the next day or enough to get you through the night. Some of you may or may not know Attawapiskat's tap water is so contaminated that you're not even allowed to bathe in it over longer than 3 minutes. And you're not allowed to breathe the vapors coming from the taps as well. It's so contaminated that it is harmful for humans. So you can't cook in it. You can't use it to cook. I mean, it's just that really frustrates me more than having to go collect water jugs for drinking. And it could really wear you down because if you come from a remote place, there are a lot of challenges that exist. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's some upsides, but there are a lot of downsides too because everything is so much more expensive to get up there. Fuel is way more expensive. It's 3 times what other people pay. Your food is usually 3 times more expensive as well. And we do get a subsidy from the government for our food, but I don't think it's enough. For example, too, we have a huge bay. There's no marine transportation service at all. Yet Marine Transport Canada will provide services to the rest of the world where there are harbors and there are, you know, they develop these marine transportation services elsewhere. But for the James Bay region, there are over 10,000 residents that live there and don't have access to like good marine transportation services like barging and so on. Instead, we have to just kind of pay outrageous amounts of money, you know, to get anything up there, which is really hard for a lot of families because a lot of families don't have very much income because the economy is very poor as well up there.
All right. Well, it definitely sounds like you know, in communities like that, there definitely are some hardships and not a bright enough spotlight, I think, is being shined on those communities. So it's lucky that you do have a platform where you can help to do some of that. And I just want to do a little conversion for some of our Canadian classrooms. I think we think a little bit more leaders sometimes. So that's probably about 18 to 20 liters in a day that you have to collect each day. So and is that just your personal use or is that the whole family?
That's the whole family. So we got,
okay.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, we're 5 in our home right now.
Yeah.
So I collect 4 jugs and we could use up sometimes half of that or more in one day.
Yeah. We absolutely take it for granted, especially living in a place like Southern Ontario where you just, I mean, it's just there and it's safe. So yeah. All right. Well, we do have time to visit some more classrooms. So let's see if we can do a quick follow-up in some of our classrooms. So let's start off in Mrs. Vick's class. Do you guys have another question for Adrian?
Yeah. Nice and loud too.
Which one of your songs means the most to you and why?
Did you hear that?
I got some of it. Can you repeat the question, please?
Which one of your songs means the most to you and why?
Which one of my songs means the most to me and why?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm gonna have to go with the new one right now because there's one other one that comes to mind, but I think it's a real heavy subject to bring up right now. So I'm gonna go with Politician Man because the whole message behind Politician Man, the video you heard earlier, was trying to get people to talk about reconciliation again. And, because I feel like it's gone. A lot of us Indigenous people and non-Indigenous feel like it's gone sideways in the last little while. And I feel like it's important for us to continue talking about things and make sure that we have the spaces to do that. And I think it's generally speaking to everyone, politicians, whether you're in the federal riding or the provincial, but whether you're also in the municipalities, and also in the local communities where we come from too. We have our own governance that exists. So it's really directed at everyone. And I think if we all can set aside our differences, we can find solutions, find a way forward together. If we really, really want to make that effort to start working together and make changes.
Yeah, it's you just have to look south of the border to see how divided people are right now. And I think some of that, especially with this election, is starting to creep into Canada. So, it really is an important message. We are all in the same country. We all have the same hopes and needs and wants, and we do need to work together a little better at the end of the day. All right, Mrs. Ford's class, one more time. Your microphone is on.
Of music.
Hello?
The first little piece got cut off.
Do you ever do mashups with different styles of music?
I'm familiar with them. I did try to do them at one time, and actually, I would like to do that at some time, and maybe do that as part of a live act. That would be very cool. Or put out a YouTube video and put up a mashup video. That would be really, really fun and cool to do. And maybe now that you mentioned it, I will try to get something going here in the next little while. Any songs in particular do you think would be cool to do as a mashup? You got any songs in mind?
Hip-hop songs. Hip-hop.
Hip-hop. Yeah, you know what? I used to be into hip-hop in high school. I mean, that's going way back. But I was really, really into hip-hop for a long time. And, I'm pretty sure I could, spit out some mean rhymes.
All right. Well, there's the next challenge has been issued, Adrian. We need some Midnight Shine hip hop mashup. So I hope to see some of those on YouTube in the near future. All right, Mr. Matthews' class, your microphone's on if you guys have another question.
Do you participate in fishing? And if so, what is the biggest catch you've ever got?
Yes, I do fish. Usually do a lot of fishing in December after it freeze up. I do some ice fishing for trout. I also do fishing in the fall, this time of year, late fall is the best time. I would say probably my biggest catch, probably close to 150 in in 24 hours, 150 fish. And so when that happens, you have to work pretty quick to clean the fish. So all within that, once you check your nets the next day, all the fish have to come off the fish net, and then they have to be cleaned right away and preserved to make sure that they don't spoil, because that's not good. You got to take care of your harvest and make sure that you're not spoiling and wasting anything.
Absolutely. Wow, 150. That is a fish cleaning party. I hope you had a little bit of help with that. I hope it wasn't a solo clean.
Usually we have help. Sometimes you're out there and you got to do the work yourself, but most times we get help.
All right. Mrs. Coffin's class, do you guys have one more question?
Okay, really loud. Just wait. Sorry, our bell just went, so we're gonna do our question and then we're gonna take our video off. Just so we can pack up but still listen.
That's fine.
Where do you get your ideas and topics for your songs?
Good question. Most of my ideas and topics come from my own personal experiences. So I think a lot of artists draw from their own environment and experiences that they have and the stuff that they're feeling, and also some of their belief systems as well. So a lot of different things can affect what people write about and how they express that, whether you're a painter, poet, or a songwriter, or a dancer, right? It really kind of draws on those different experiences that you've had, whether you've grown up somewhere in a certain place, perhaps maybe you experience a traumatic event in your life and you may feel like you need to write about that because it affected you in a certain way. And it's a good way to get some of those things out and put them somewhere else, because if you hang on to things that are not so good for you, it can make you feel bad sometimes.
All right, and we'll wrap up with Mrs. Vernon's class our class in Vernon, British Columbia. Do you guys have one more question?
How does music get passed down in your culture?
Oh yeah. Okay, so we never had like music on guitars or rock or anything like that up until I guess when we started hearing it through radios and that sort of thing. But before that, the natives had their own music, which was singing, chanting. And some of the songs that were passed down orally. So you had to learn the songs by listening, and there was no other way. It's not like you could go back and listen to a recording over and over and over, or they weren't transcribed on any sheet music. It's actually listening, and then you would learn the songs that way. So some of the songs that I sing today are ancient. They come from thousands and thousands of years. My great-grandfather sang them, and his great-grandfather sang them, and so on. So the songs that I still carry today came from hundreds of years ago that I know of anyway, 500 plus years ago. But I'm told that they come from the beginning, some of the songs that they still sing. And they were passed down orally.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to give a big shout out to our classrooms. I know some of your days are ending. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Thank you for your awesome and thought out questions. You guys are the best. Adrian, thank you so much for taking some time from your day. I know you have lots of Secret Path Week activities that you're taking part in. So thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sharing your story. And yeah, keep writing those songs. I'm going to share that link with the classroom so they can rock out to the song again, maybe tomorrow when they get to school. So thanks so much for being with us today, Adrian. That was great.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let me turn on the microphones, boys and girls. Let's get a little bit loud. A big goodbye and thank you. Here we go.
Neglect.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out with us today. Event coming up starting Monday.